Dope. I'm sorry.
Cool.
Fuck, she doesn't apologize.
You should be.
There we go. That's what I was looking for, at least.
I was drinking my just cold coffee.
Just cold coffee.
Wait. Like, iced coffee or?
No, it's not iced coffee. You want to know why? Because I don't have any ice, damn it.
So, is it freezer coffee or fridge coffee?
It is fridge coffee. Like
Hey,
the kind you can buy at the store,
I'm not
but
gonna
it's just
lie.
going to get, like, warm.
I'm not gonna lie. So when I get iced coffee at like Dunkin' Donuts or something, it's actually really good. Like if you just let all the ice melt and let it warm up just a little bit, like chilled coffee. It's actually really good.
But then it's, like, watered down because of all the ice, no?
Right. So that's what I'm saying is you probably have a better experience. But Dunkin'
But I don't
Donuts
think I've ever,
Dunkin' Donuts
like,
typically has
waited.
like really like pungent coffee.
You just inhale the coffee, right? Because, you know,
yeah.
you practically use the
it
syringe at that
requires-
point to just inject it into your bloodstream.
I don't drink coffee that much. I drink caffeinated sodas because I'm a fat ass. So
And see, I don't drink soda, so that's, like, my only caffeine is coffee.
See, soda's my only caffeine, but that's literally only if I've been running on like 4 hours of sleep for the past 3 weeks and have been up till since 2 in the morning, as of late. So I might be a little tired.
Hillary picked a running mate. Sorry, political for a second. FYI for Americans.
Are you watching multi-twitch and watching the
I mean,
the RNC at the
maybe.
same time? No, that's horrible. I don't even want to get into that nonsense. Yeah, so we were about to have a conversation about politics in-game, which are far more important.
Exactly.
So yeah, so Vi, you do the elbow hit to let Marilla, like, hey, that could be important because that's where we're headed, and, you know, this lady's also kind of important, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so probably Morella would like chime in with just like the usual, oh, what do you mean? What exactly is like wrong type of thing? Like, have you just not heard back from him, or is something else missed?
So yeah, so Lady Marbleshade, she turns and looks. She's like, my husband never writes.
And like at that point, like Marilla's just like, okay, I literally have nothing to go on here.
Right, yeah.
And
she continues, and she says, my husband never writes. It's just that he's always gone from the house. He always seems to be doing this or doing that for the Count. You know, sometimes I believe that he's the one that really runs things up there because he's always seems to be doing this task or that task, but if you just wrote me, he didn't even tell me why he was going.
Well, perhaps he's just a very busy man and doesn't wish to concern you with his problems.
Yes, but doesn't he know that it will just concern me more if he doesn't tell me? Doesn't he know that?
I don't think men generally think of it that way. Men generally think that their problems are their own and they don't wish to burden others with it.
Well, that's such a selfish attitude.
It's not selfish. It's more of just they wish not to worry those that they care about.
Well, that'd be news to me if he cared about me.
I'm sure he does.
Maybe. But, still stands to reason, he left 3 weeks ago and I haven't seen him since. No word. Not even any word from any of the other lords. They won't tell me where he's gone.
Forgive me, lady. I think Vi would, pipe up at this point and say, since he doesn't write you, how do you know about this all in the first place? This trouble up the road.
Well, why else would they send him? He's certainly not a man to sit behind a desk. He's a warrior. And she kind of, like, puffs out her chest a little bit and, like, has a little bit of, like, the It's a little condescending. It's the "I've landed a good man" pose. She's like, he only gets sent on missions when the Count needs something dealt with. I heard that he, well, and she's stuttering like I am. I'm not doing that.
I think that Vi would say, "Oh, I am sure he is a great warrior. Do you know by chance anybody who went with him?"
Well, I think that I heard that that Nicholas went with him. That's Lord Stonewall, by the way. I heard that he accompanied him in his band as his second.
And is he missing too?
Well, I cannot say. His wife, and she kind of like looks around. And he's like, his wife does not appear to be in attendance. I believe she is burdened with child at this time.
She says, and any other lords, or just him that you know of?
Well, I know that they took a contingent of guardsmen. A few of them were at my house prior to the departure. I snuck down on the staircase and listened in for a moment. It seemed dangerous. I'm so confused. He could at least tell me. There are things that need to be prepared should he perish.
Oh, lady, I don't think we should go quite that far. I'm sure he's fine.
Yes, well, I certainly hope so. He just never writes.
Well, maybe when you see him again, you can talk to him about that.
Well, I did hear that, at the very least, that they were headed east. And I heard that they mentioned something about, well, these lizard folk. Have you heard anything about that?
Morella raises an eyebrow, and like maybe she doesn't look over to Vi, and she's like, "No, I actually haven't heard of these lizard folks."
She's like, all I know of lizardmen is that they're apparently savages. They come from across the ocean. They were brought here by slavers, and they rebelled against their masters and cut them all down and hung them up. And now they plague the lands and the roads. If you ask me, they're no better than orcs.
The whole time, Vi's just nodding in, like, agreement, everything that she says.
Yeah, and it's kind of the similar situation with Morella, as, like, she, like, sips the wine, just kind of, like, soaking in what this woman is telling her.
Yeah, and then I think she goes, it is curious, though, why Lord Stonewall went. He is not a warrior. He is, and she kind of, like, gets the, like, the kind of, he's a counselor of sorts. Not nearly as important as my husband, of course, but it is strange they would send him with them.
That is strange. Why would they send a councilman to, perhaps to a warrior's...
To clean out savages? I don't know. That is a question for someone else, I think.
Perhaps. That might be a question for someone else. She takes another sip of her wine,
yeah.
And maybe she, like, eyes Vi when she does it.
I think that Vi would kind of look around the room a little bit to try to see who else happens to be listening to this conversation.
There's quite a few women listening in.
Any seem more intent than others?
Yeah, there's probably a couple who are, probably most of the ones on the gossip train are, like, attentively listening. But there's probably a couple others of, like, the more, political types that are listening in and, you know, kind of, like, nodding and, you know, also, you can tell, like, the gears are working in their heads about what may or may not be going on.
I think Vi would probably throw it out to whomever makes eye contact with her first. And say, I mean, these lizard men, they sound terrible. Have you heard anything of these?
Yeah. So I think that woman across from you, she goes, all those lies about the lizard folk, they are no different than elves or dwarves or any other civilized people. Just because they come from a different place doesn't mean we should discriminate against them. perhaps they could be allies.
Well, there must be some reason you formed this opinion of them. Have you had any contact with them? Or anyone you know?
Well, the warrior Natsu, he was lizard men, even though some don't believe those tales. As a reminder, in case you forgot, Natsu was the warrior who killed Dread Necromancer Malik in Mordheim. Remember, one of every race, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
There was a dwarf and a human and an elf and a lizardman and a halfling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the lizardman. At least that's what the stories say.
Yeah.
And so she says, like, she continues and she says, they can't possibly all be bad for one to slay one of the greatest enemies of the Empire since von Kerstein. And I think when she says von Kerstein, there are a couple of women who gasp, like, you know, the exaggerate, like, like, you know, that name is not to be spoken, etc., etc.
It's Voldemort.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean,
Morella
he really is.
Fix it.
Except way
As
worse.
well.
He's actually killed, like, millions and millions of people. But, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, Morella knows this, and maybe she, like, she sees, like, other women, like, you know, gasp and such, and she does it fakely. She doesn't make it audible, but she just, like, probably, like, puts her, like, hand over her mouth, and she's like, type of deal. So.
Yeah, you kind of mock the, like,
Mimic.
Yeah, the hand over mouth gasp. Got it.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, she kind of, like, leaves it there, and I think there's, like, I think for sure, Lady Marbleshade kind of, like, looks a little bit taken aback that this woman has essentially, like, debunked her theory, and she's taken a little bit of offense to that. But she's not, like, she's outwardly showing it, but not, like, addressing it, right? Choosing, like, pointedly choosing to ignore it. And she just, like, does the harumph and grabs her drink and sips some more and begins talking with, like, some other ladies down the table. And the lady across from you, she begins, like, cutting her food again. And eating it. And doesn't, like, continue the conversation unless you know, engage.
I think that Vi would kind of conspiratorially, obviously, lean over to Morella and say, so it sounds like there is more going on up the road than we had thought.
So it seems. Perhaps we should check that out if we find the time.
Yes, after our other laundry list of things we need to do and slay, as it were.
Yes, we do have many obstacles. And, like, maybe she, like, eats a small piece of meat that's, like, presented to her.
Sure. Yeah. It's probably, like, in fact, it's probably Brazilian, Jesus, why can't I remember the name? Like, Brazilian steakhouse kind of atmosphere where, like, skewers of stuff is being brought and, like, trimmed off at the table for you to grab and eat.
Yeah.
Everything that Morella and I eat, I'm casting Detect Poison on, FYI.
Sure, yeah. So you're just, like, holding a hand over it. I think Detect Poison actually, like, is like a time thing, right? Like, isn't
it's
it,
like for 10 minutes I can, like...
Right, you can detect.
So
yeah.
I only need to do it once, but yeah.
Yeah, right. You do it once, and then if it runs out, you do it again. But yeah, you definitely have enough to, like...
Again.
Yeah, exactly.
To, like, get through
just in case.
Yeah.
I was a little paranoid at the moment.
Right, absolutely, yeah. But nothing that you detect, at least up till now, has had any ill effect or anything.
Just checking.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I think that you... dinner goes swimmingly, and dessert is being brought out. And Farron, this is kind of like the moment, right? Like, this is where you need to step it up and actually perform a show. So what do you choose to do? And so roll me a charisma saving throw first off before you do anything else.
Okay.
Perfect. So you have been getting quite a few looks throughout the night. A lot of them from like the women kind of chatting, and now they're getting a fair bit more drunken. And yeah, I don't know how you feel about this, but I would assume that since Morella is in attendance, you're a bit uncomfortable with the somewhat predatory glances you are receiving.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because there are some predatory glances that are aimed in your direction, and most of these women probably have husbands who have been gone for months and months and months, right? So just take that into consideration when you continue what you're about to do.
Also, Morella's looking.
Right, yeah, and probably, like, there's that moment of, like, you get a little bit more comfortable, and then you see Morella again, and then, like, oh, shit. And then, you know, you get a little bit more comfortable, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so when it's time for you to actually put on a show, what do you do? How do you do that?
You know, up until this point, it's just been nice background music, very unintrusive, but I think at this point it's an actual performance that I would actually do. It's me singing. And
I was gonna say, do you sing
playing.
or do you like you know, do you?
Yeah, it will be a full performance. As
Sure.
I would
Yeah.
do.
So I think that obviously I'm gonna ask for a performance roll
Say a
to
performance.
see how good it is. It's not great.
No.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the women, a lot of their glances towards you probably shift from predatory to maybe a little bit of like, oh, he's cute, it's too bad he's dumb, kind of glances.
That was obviously intentional. Of
Right,
course.
right, yeah. There's a lot of
Calculated.
there's a little bit of pity running through, and I think that maybe Morella, maybe you hear this, but Lady Sylar, she probably
Yes.
says at some point, she goes, "Oh, this is about the worst playing I've ever heard," and she's like, I'm pretty sure I could do better than that. This poor boy. Who hired him again?" And you look and you see that Lady Appleton, who's seated next to her, probably like for the first time over the course of the night, she kind of like, there's a little bit of red on her neck from like the maybe being embarrassed for Lady Sylar being so candor. But there's definitely like emotion where there wasn't any before, right? Like the emotion itself is hard to pick up, but there's definitely something there. And she looks at Lady Sylar and she just says, "Oh, it won't matter. I think he performs just fine for this event."
Yeah.
And Lady Sylar just kind of goes, "If you say so, my lady."
Yeah, I think.
Vi's laughing her ass off at how bad he's doing and trying to keep it to herself.
Yeah, you actually, like, it seems like Morella is keeping, like, just a calm, like, as though the music is not bothering her. But, it's not the music that's bothering her, it's the words that, Lady, what's her name, Shylar? Is that
Sylar.
her? Yeah, Sylar. Said about Farron's music, and she, like, she knows that Farron is a very good player, and that she is talking bad about Farron.
Right. So like, yeah.
So like
for
her
the-
teeth is clenched, and like maybe she's like going really hard with like cutting pieces of meat at a time.
So I think for the two of you, you know Farron's better than this, but like, if you probably wouldn't be able to tell whether or not he's doing it on purpose or if he's actually just like somehow extremely nervous.
Yeah.
Right, like his facial expressions are probably keeping it fairly well under wraps, and like his singing is okay, because like a 10 is average, right? It's like perfectly average down the middle of the road. You know, it's probably about the same that you would see on, you know, as from a street performer or something like that. So it's not necessarily bad, but it is not as enthralling as it could be.
Yeah.
Which is probably works in your favor, to be honest, Farron. So yeah, so the performance is lackluster in some regards, but dessert is brought out, and you guys eat dessert, and everybody's, you know, kind of full and happy now. And after that's all been served, and the music kind of dies off, and you're actually probably, Farron, you're probably escorted like back to like the servants' hall or whatever. Lady Appleton gets up, and she kind of like walks around to the head of the table, and she kind of surveys everyone, and everybody notices, and you know, you all look up, and she goes, "Women gathered here before me mark the most powerful ladies in this city, and a few guests," and she motions to Lady Thorn and Lady Fairheart, and she says, "It is my honor and the honor of Lady Sylar to host you at this event. I bring you all here today to address some concerns that have been plaguing this city lately. Well, as we know, our husbands are, more often than not, busy and doing their own things, and to be fair, this leaves a lot undone at home. There are things that we can do to improve the state of this city, so that when our husbands return from their adventures, they have a nice, warm, loving place to come home to. One thing that needs to improve: the state of our children, especially with some of the common folk. It seems that there are many people not being cared for, and I ask that all of the women here just think upon what you can do to help better the situation. They are still children, and human beings, and in some cases dwarves. But regardless of that, they all live in our fair city, and we must treat them all and get things that they need. Medicine and she continues on for a little while. I won't go into the whole thing, but she continues on, essentially attempting to inspire the women to be more active in the community of the city. It's a very like kind of heartfelt speech. It's a little bit inspiring to those people that are in attendance. You know, you guys can choose to be as moved or as not moved as you please, but it is said with a lot of conviction. It's not your typical kind of political speech kind of thing. Probably because of the setting that it's in, right? Like, you guys are essentially in a very intimate kind of setting. And this is kind of like the behind doors political speech as opposed to the out in front of the people political speech, right? So you guys can choose to, again, be as moved as you please about it. And when she finishes, there's applause that goes around the table, which I assume you all join in on. And she nods your head and she says, "And unfortunately, I must be off to do my own work. There are things that need done back at the keep. But I thank the Lady Sylar for hosting this event, and I'm sure that the revelry will continue far into the night." And she essentially goes to take her departure from the party. So how do you guys react? It's kind of like now we're gonna mill about and continue talking about stuff, but it's on the downward path. So the two of you that are there, and Farron, you're also instructed that, like, you know, your job's done. You know, you don't go into the common areas, but, you know, they probably give you like a plate of food, like leftovers or whatever. And, you know, some ale or whatever is available for you to like munch down on and, you know, enjoy yourself. And like all the cooks and the servants are doing the same thing, right? Because like they don't really have to do much anymore. They're all kind of done with all that.
Yeah.
So anybody that can do anything can. As like and everybody's there, and there's some people that are like getting up and milling about, and some people that are like going and walking under the moonlight, and etc., etc. Lady Sylar is still seated in her chair. She's probably like slowly like swilling a drink now, and, you know, taking a sip, and she's probably got like a piece of bread that she's still kind of munching on. Lady Appleton is like saying goodbyes to some individuals, like individually instead of just like the group dismissal that she gave. And you can see like the sentries posted on the outside. They're like preparing themselves and getting ready to leave, etc., etc. So, what do you guys do?
I think Morella would. She was definitely moved by Lady Appleton's speech, as it's familiar type of ideology that she has.
Yeah, it definitely is.
With Morella. How she, like, with conviction, she wants to just help the common people, mainly the children, but essentially common people, even though she's a nobleman.
Right.
And so maybe she would, she whispers to Vi, and she's like, I believe before she leaves, I'm going to speak with her.
So I think, Morella, that's the first time you notice that Vi is visibly irritated. I think that her speech had a very different effect on Vi. And if you say you're going to go talk to her, she just kind of dismisses you and stays where she is and stares forward.
Yeah. When Morella notices this, she immediately like looks over at Lady Appleton, but then looks back at you, Vi, and she's like, "Is everything okay?"
I think that Vi makes eye contact finally with Morella and says, "No, you should go say your goodbyes. I just, I don't know. She speaks as if she knows of orphans, but she has no idea."
She nods and like, she stands up, but when she stands up, she places a hand on like your shoulder, and she's like, she doesn't know. I don't know, but she wants to help, and that's enough reason. And then she walks away.
Okay. Yeah, and so you head up and yeah, I think Lady Appleton is like, you approach her and to say your goodbyes, and she greets you and she says, "Ah, yes, Lady Fairheart."
Yeah, she Morella like greets her with like a small bow or a curtsy, and she says, "Lady Appleton, your speech, it was wonderfully spoken. I was very moved by it."
Well, that is good. I know that this is not your city, but as a visitor, I'm sure you have seen some of the hardships that our people go through that need to be addressed. And I'm sure that Talabheim is no shortage of their own problems. Perhaps you can take back some inspiring words to your people.
Yeah, she kind of like takes it back, and she kind of like clears her throat, and she's like, "Yes, right. To understand. I agree. I think we should try to understand the plight that these common folk go through."
She nods, like, kind of a little bit vigorously, and she's like, "Yes, indeed. As one coming from privilege myself, I would not begin to understand, but I know that there must be more that we can do. Us sitting in our high halls doing nothing is certainly not going to help the morale of the people. We need to be active in these things."
Yes, we should be active. Anyways, I wish for you a safe trip back to your palace.
And she nods and she says, "And I wish you a safe trip as well, but I must say, I never asked, what brings you to the city of Nuln, so far from Talabheim? Are you here on the request of your father?"
She looks like she's about to say something, and then holds it back, and then she says, "I'm on important business."
She kind of chuckles probably a little bit, kind of a light, like, tinkly, probably sounds a little bit practiced chuckle, and she says, "Don't we all have important business? Well, I hope that your business goes well in any regard, and should you need anything, just my people will see to you." if you have need, just visit the keep. I'm sure that we can provide at least what we are able. If your cause is worthy enough.
She nods and she's like, I simply wish to help my people.
I think with that sentiment, she agrees again vigorously, and she's like, she probably like goes to end the conversation unless you have anything else to say.
No, she doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, so you take your leave, and do you go collect Lady Thorn?
Yeah, she does.
She doesn't find her.
Right. So that's why, like, you turn around and probably she's not there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's more of like, when she turns around, she has the calm, collective face that she has, and when she completes turning around and looks for Thorn, Vi, her eyes go wide, and like, you can hear like almost like a small like gasp come from her, and she's like, not so much of that, like that, it's more of like a worried gasp, like, oh no.
Sure. So Farron, you finish your meal, and what are you doing? Essentially you can take your leave at this point, but obviously you're probably going to want to wait for when everybody else leaves too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of just waiting, kind of nearby, just seeing when they're about to leave.
Sure, cool. So you're kind of out in the... It's not cold at night, right? It's still humid as hell. Probably sweating a little bit. I think that maybe you've been given a chance to reflect now, and you realize that, your performance was probably not the greatest, but, at least you got out of there, and it, nothing's happened, and, you didn't get accosted by a million women, and, So you're probably, like, doing, like, pull your collar out a little bit and letting the heat come out a little bit. And I think that we'll move back over to Chester. And Chester, maybe you dozed off up in the rafters of the attic, with your little bird friend, and you wake up to, like, you hear like a faint noise maybe coming from outside, like through the window that was there, and your bird friend is not on you anymore. You see him like in the window, like kind of like looking down at the street, and you hear what sounds like a song maybe, or like a tune, or like some people trying to sing but they're not really good at it. But it's kind of muffled and kind of soft as well from where you are.
So I'm gonna follow little birdie friend and peer over the window and see what I see.
Okay. So you look down and you can see that there are those three kids are down there, and they're all holding hands, and they're kind of skipping around in a circle. So like and this is like the dead of night, right? They're kind of skipping around in a circle, and they're singing, and it's kind of like, it's in a language. What languages do you speak?
I don't speak that many. I speak Common, Elvish, Dwarven, and
Thieves' Cant. Yeah, your select Thieves' Cant. Sure. You don't recognize it, and it sounds like kind of a harsh tone. But I think that actually, roll me an insight check.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not a language you understand. It sounds maybe it might be a dialect of Dwarvish, but it's kind of got that like harsh kind of guttural sounding. But it's not quite there. And they're skipping around, and it's the tempo is kind of in the middle somewhere. It's like bum 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 bum, and as you listen, you begin to hear like music playing with it as they sing, and it's all kind of really surreal, and it's like.
So, as soon as Chester starts to hear the music,
you can keep going.
His first reaction is to get the hell out of there. He literally grabs the bird and he runs very quickly.
So you turn and you run through the attic, and as you like start climbing down the ladder, like for the attic or like the drop stairs or whatever there are, you hear a scream coming from the common area, like in the direction that you're traveling, because like the attic is essentially like the fourth or the third level, right? Because there's like the second level, and then there's the third level, which is the attic, and then there's the first level, like common area. So you hear from like the stairs in front of you, you hear a scream, and you hear just a
okay. Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So Chester heads back up the stairs, out the window, and onto the roof.
Sure, yeah. So
running away.
so you jump out onto the window, and you see like standing like entering into the bar. You see like there's like this long like reddish tail that slides into the bar, and you can see where those kids were spinning around in a circle. They're lying on the ground, and you can see the pools of blood beginning to form underneath them.
Would I know sort of any tales about this?
Roll me an Arcana check, and I'll let you know.
All right.
Get fucked!
Nope. Nope.
So,
not at all.
So to me, this is just some super scary shit that's going on here.
I think even if you knew what it was, it'd be some super scary shit.
So, thinking that, I'm gonna try and make my way sort of across from it, but still on the roof as high as I can get.
Sure.
And see if I can see inside of the common area.
Okay. So you're gonna like leap to the next building, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, you're practicing that. I'm not gonna make you roll for it. You leap to the next building, and I think that as you do that, and like you turn around and you look, the window crashes and something flies out of it, and you look down and you realize it's a dwarf who's been thrown out of the inn, and is smashed his head against the like stone building that you're on now, and is like lying unconscious on the ground now. And there's people that are like running out the back and screaming, and the commotion is starting to pick up at this point. And I think you probably hear something like, this thing, whatever it is speaking in that same language that the little boys were speaking in. Yeah, and it's like it appears to be calling for something.
That's not good. Can I make my way inside this building I'm currently on?
Sure. You could probably like drop down on like the alley and look in there. Sure.
I want to try and get inside and look sort of like through the bottom floor, because I'm guessing at the angle that I was at on the roof, I couldn't actually see
Yeah, you wouldn't
inside.
actually be able to see inside. Yeah, you have that correct.
So I want to get to a floor where I actually can see inside.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think the building you're on is probably like a storage warehouse, maybe. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's like a storage warehouse, and you climb down, and you're trying to do this all sneaky, and you peek out the window, and the window's real dirty. But there's like a little part of it that's broken. Actually, there's no glass on it. What am I saying? This is a warehouse. There's no glass on it. You're fine. So like you peek out, and you can see inside There's like at first you can't see anything. There's a lot of like shadows and stuff moving to and forth. You can hear things being like wooden tables being ripped apart and like stuff happening, and it appears to be whatever this thing is moving towards the like second level. And I think that you can see as it like goes up the stairs, you can see like the silhouette of it. And I think the important thing that you can see is there's this long claw-like arm on one side, and like I said, it's like kind of reddish, and it's got this kind of medium length red, like kind of short fat tail on it as it goes up the side, and it's kind of like a reddish hue. But I need you to roll me a stealth check, please.
All right. I'm supposed to be good at these. I am good at these.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yay.
So it's a good thing you're fine.
Chester's not dead
The
yet.
bird gives you away. No.
That if you had failed, that was 100% what was going to happen. So you hear it like creaking up. You didn't really get a great look at it, but it is clearly unnatural.
So I'm holding the bird in my hands, and I'm like petting it and keeping it calm as I look through this window, freaking the hell out.
Right, you're keeping it calm, but actually it's like in an effort to keep yourself calm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I have no way of doing anything major here by myself. So I take one of...
You could go try and shoot it with your crossbow.
I could, and I'm thinking of that. But instead, I take a flask of oil and some string, and I make a Molotov and throw it at the building.
Sure, yeah. So you pull out a flask of oil, you get some string, it takes a second for you to like get fire going, right? Because you're like nervous and like fumbling or whatever, and you throw it there and flask of oil. In fact, actually, probably what happens, this is even better, because of your mindset right now. You're like trying to make a Molotov, and finally you just throw the oil at the freaking building and then light that on fire, and then begin running away.
I'm actually
how I
going
can
to start running
imagine
towards the tea party. I do know where the tea party is, right?
I mean, yeah, you were present. Like, you didn't look at the piece of paper, but yeah, you could probably find that. Like the galleon and the knolls, probably, because it's like halfway in between. I would think where you and the tea party are, because the slum area is kind of over here in this area.
Yeah, it's where I would go for a walk. It's way over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think that was probably your best bet, but like you could totally go to the tea party too if you wanted to.
I would actually probably run towards the gate and try and get some guards. Like, tell them there's a building on fire.
Sure, yeah. So you begin to take off, and I think that as you take off, the building, like you can see, like you look over your shoulder and you see that it's getting engulfed in flames, and you see like this creature getting out of the top window where you were in the attic, and the fire is kind of like surrounded the rest of the building now. Like maybe you stop for a second and you look. The fire's kind of surrounded the rest of the building now, and it screams out, and this is in common, so you can actually understand it. It goes,
I was made by fire. It cannot harm me. Come, creature. Face me.
So Chester wouldn't say a thing.
Right.
Normally he would be super just.
Yeah, you got it. You got a good look at this thing now too.
Oh.
Because it's like standing. It's like illuminated by the fire that you set on the building, right? So it appears to have like a goat-shaped head. Its eyes are probably the most distinctive part about this goat-shaped head with these big horns on it. Its eyes are these red, just bright red, almost laser dot eyes that just appear to... They have no pupils or anything, they just see everything. And it actually has 4 arms. It has 2 arms that are these large, like heavily muscular, and they have like these large pincer claws on the end. And then there's 2 almost human-like arms, but maybe like a large human or maybe even a Goliath-like arms underneath those 2. So it's got 4 arms. And it's got a few like of these spikes, and it's this reddish color. And yeah, it's quite hideous in its appearance. Yeah, and so you run off to go get a guard, yeah?
Actually, once I see it, and after it says that, I would probably hide. My thinking would go, the fire's probably causing enough smoke, guards have already started coming.
Sure, yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm gonna get my ass in cover.
Okay. But stay in the area, or are you gonna, like, attempt to, like, stealthily just get away?
I'm going to hide in a building that I can still see this thing from.
Sure. So yeah, just as you expected, the guards eventually start showing up. People start running, and this thing, it went back inside the building. So you lost, like, visual contact of it. And now, like, people are showing up, and, like, there's water trains starting, and, like, they're essentially fighting the fire now, right? Mm-hmm. How long do you wait there?
Maybe 10 minutes. Not too long.
Okay. Yeah, so they're starting to get the fire, like, under control. Like, there's people that are up on, like, the buildings like you were on, and they're, like, making it so that other buildings don't catch on fire, so that hopefully the only thing that burns down is this thing, right? And also it's mostly stone building, so a lot of the structures and stuff, because it's dwarven make, a lot of the structures and stuff will be protected, you know, but the upper level will probably have to be, like, rebuilt or whatever. In the amount of time that you spend there, though, you don't see this creature again, and it doesn't like, come out and start killing people. But you do see that a couple of the guardsmen have, like, run over to the bodies of the children that were on the ground, the 3 little boys, and they're like looking at it, and, like, you can see, like, one of them, like, rolled one of the boys over, and they're, like, inspecting it, but they don't appear to be, like, moving the bodies or, like, attempting to save them, because they're clearly dead, at least even to them.
Mm-hmm. So I am gonna move away, but not super far. I'm going to sort of set up a vantage point if I can.
Sure.
On one of the nearby buildings.
Sure. You can absolutely do that. And what are you looking for?
Any sign of this thing.
Okay. Roll me a perception check.
Got it.
You have a decent vantage point. 16's not bad. You do not see any sign of this thing. And depending on how long you wait there, you see that the fire is beginning to, like, be quelled. In fact, probably you see, like, there is maybe, like, a cleric or something that has appeared at the blaze now and is now, like, doing more than all of the other people because he can, like, cast water and shit. And he's, like, helping, like, quell the blaze, and it's dying down, and, you know, there's still a lot of smoke rising and stuff, but it's mostly, like, steam rising at this point. But still no sign of the creature at all.
Okay. That makes my life pretty easy. First thought that goes through Chester's head is, fuck, I left my bed in there. But
yeah, that's burned.
Yeah, it's gone. Chester just kind of lays back on the roof and stares up at the stars and is wondering to himself what the fuck that thing was.
And I'm assuming you check on your little bird friend, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Your little bird friend seems like no worse for the wear. It appears that he didn't even know that he was close to death.
He's just a little birdie. It's fine.
Cool. Let me do one thing real quick.